Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Holding Court with the Empress West Hollywood. My name is E19 Miller, the Empress of WeHo. And we're so excited to have you here today. It is our final episode for season 3 before the end of this year, and we put it to bed, burn it, and set it afire, ablaze, and bury it where it belongs out in Palm Springs with the rest of the dead people. So, thank you so much for tuning in, and we also want to say a special thank you to our producers, GayLifeLA.com, as well as Kings Road Apartment Homes for all the beautiful space you see here today. And our extra special guest, we have Mr. Dr. Christmas himself, Bob Pranga, who is just a whirlwind through the season. I mean, basically from October to now, it is his busiest time of year. Staying, keeping people all festive and merry and gay as fuck. I mean, really, just gay all the time.
I thought this was the Ellen show.
Sorry, wrong lesbian. But no, Bob, you are like seriously. I mean, literally, Tree Stylist to the stars. I mean, you have. I'm not gonna say you've done everyone, but you have decorated.
Everyone's balls. Go ahead and say it.
He is like he's
hung them all.
He's glitter balled all of them, and he's hung them all. They have been hung for the gods. Oh my god! But you really, I mean, from like legends like Beyonce, Elton John, John Legend. I mean, you have decorated them all. For you, let's go back to like the very beginning and really get to know about you and kind of how you came up and got into this. But you're originally from Sturgis, Michigan.
Can't even say it, can
Sturgis. Just no.
Michigan, we're Republican.
And then that's why he moved out to LA. But you grew up in it's not like a small town. It's a smaller town, but. What was kind of the difference growing up in a place like Sturgis compared to kind of now living out here in a place like LA?
Well, I mean, when I say small town, it's like Stephen King's small town.
Oh, okay. Like Pet Sematary realness.
Yeah, so I relate totally to all those movies because, you know, Sturgis was one of those little towns on the main road that became small after the main road moved.
Wow.
Type of thing.
Oh my God.
It's located exactly 2 hours between Detroit and Chicago.
Really?
Right on US 12.
Wow.
We were on a major trading route, and the only thing famous about Sturgis besides me is the fact that we have one woman who is a survivor from the Titanic.
Oh, wow.
Buried in the graveyard. The funny thing about her is, though, she survived the Titanic and came back to Sturgis, Michigan, and 2 weeks later she tripped on a can of peach preserves and fell down the stairs. So, hey, you know, that's the excitement there. And we also was the home of Tom Bodette. You know, we keep the lights on Motel 6.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, and he comes here. And Hugh, Mr. Troyer, Mini-Me.
Oh, wow.
Vern Troyer. Vern Troyer is only like 15 minutes away from us.
Wow.
Yeah, he was born in Sturgis Hospital.
Holy
there
crap.
you go. Isn't it very exciting, the travelogue that's happening to see?
But seriously, though, I mean, that is a kind of, I mean, for a small town, it has a lot of big things happening around it.
We have a lot of good stuff. You just got to know where to dig.
That's true. Where the bodies are buried.
And I didn't say that.
And you've moved around to a few other different places. You lived in Holland, Michigan as well, Plymouth. You moved to New York as well to do an acting
Wow,
career.
you really did, didn't you?
I looked her up, bitch. And when you moved from kind of that area to New York with the aspiration to be an actor, were you like just like I'm gonna do this? Did you want to do stage like Broadway, or were you more looking toward like film and television?
Well, you know what was really interesting is when I was in Holland, Michigan, I was in college.
Okay.
At a very nice Christian school called Hope College. And
where you corrupted them all.
Yeah, it was fantastic. But during that time in Holland, I spent a season in New York City. And I was an intern on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, wow.
And so when I first went there, you know, the colleges set up all these programs like, you can work in the theater if you mop the floors, or you can Xerox or do all this kind of stuff. And I said, I don't want any of that crap. I want network.
Oh.
And so they found I called Saturday Night Live, and they said, sure, let's do it.
Wow.
So I got to be an intern on there for a while, and I really fell in love with television.
When they were still good.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I was there, Eddie Murphy was still around, and it was in that time period. But we did get to work with Gilda Radner and
holy crap,
you know, Jane Curtin and a lot of, when they came on as guest stars.
Yeah, amazing.
And I have a great story about Gilda Radner because I love her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was actually one of my major influences in deciding how I wanted to be in the world because when I was a lowly intern running around getting everybody food, you were not allowed to talk to the celebrities.
Oh, at all?
At all. You were just supposed to not be around, but just do your thing and
Gotcha,
go.
okay.
And I went into Gilda's dressing room one day, and she was there. And I was like, oh my God, okay, Gilda, I'm so sorry. She says, oh, honey, come in and sit down. I just got this big fruit basket. You should have some. She says, I hear you're from Michigan. We like fruit in Michigan. And so, my fellow Michigander, So I'm like going through this. I said, Gilda, I can't. I'll get in so much trouble. She got up and closed the door. She says, honey, sit down. You look exhausted. And she goes, and if they give you any problems out there, you just tell them you were helping me. I'm the star.
Oh.
Now, I say that because Gilda Radner did not say it in the, Alexis Carrington kind of way. She was just very clear about business and the fact that she didn't take any crap from anybody.
Right,
and I loved her. And so, of course, when I went out there and my boss was like, where were you? And I said, Gilda said to talk to her if you had a problem. And
shut him right up.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's how it started.
Okay.
Christmas wasn't even on the roadmap until
Macy's.
Yeah, until about Macy's, and that was in 1900. And I was in there setting up. I actually was in costume jewelry. And it was an accident that they put me up on the Christmas floor because they were behind.
Okay.
And so we're decorating a tree up there, and actress Mia Farrow walked in.
Yeah.
And she came by and said, wow, that's great. I wish somebody would do that in my home.
And
well,
were
now
you
I'm in my...
standing right there? Or
Yeah. And I was like decorating, and I was in my 20s, and I thought, I didn't know any better. I said, sure, I'll come home and help you put up your Christmas tree. You know? So we started doing it, and that was just kind of fun. I mean... The truth of the matter is, I just did Christmas as a survival job in New York City. When I met Debbie, my business partner, Debbie Starin, we ended up coming out here because we thought, well, let's go to LA and try the acting thing.
Right.
And while I'm giving you the abbreviated because otherwise you'll have to not buy the book and see all the dirty stuff. But while out here, we got hired by Paris Hilton's mother, Kathy.
Yeah.
And we ended up working for her, and she pulled me aside one day and said, if you want to make it in this town, you watch me. And so one of my claims to fame is that I was Paris Hilton's babysitter.
Yeah.
That'll give you a little age semblance there, just a little bit. But, and then from that point on, it just became like word of mouth. And then I realized that living in Los Angeles, if you wanted to make it, you had to get yourself on television.
Right.
And nobody told me you couldn't just call TV shows and ask to be on, that you had to do all this protocol. So I ended up calling Lisa Gibbons, who had her own show at the time, the Lisa Show.
Yeah.
And I said, hi, this is Bob Pranga, I'm Dr. Christmas. And the receptionist thought I was a real doctor. And so next thing you know, she put me through to Lisa.
Oh my gosh.
And then I was like, Lisa's on there, she says, hi, who is this? And I'm like, hi, Bob, I'm Lisa, it's Bob Pranga, I'm Dr. Christmas, I think it'd be really fun to be on your show. And she just went, okay. That's the way most of this career has been.
Really?
It's just been, I've opened my big mouth, or I did something I wasn't supposed to, and then it just kind of...
went with it.
And then Lisa became a very good ally, and from that point on, whenever they needed something on Extra or a Christmas celebrity fluff piece, she put us on, and then other shows would catch us because they thought, oh, it's really cool, this...
Christmas, yeah. Well, and it's
people,
but like you don't just do like decorating too. You bring a whole experience. I mean, it is the trees aren't just normal, just decorated trees. I mean, he has mannequins in them that are decorated to the nines and has all this other stuff. I mean, you bring in stuff from Europe. I mean, it's not just some basic run-of-the-mill Christmas decoration. It is a production that you put together, and I mean, it is. I mean, what would you say? Who is one of your maybe like most favorite designs and decorations you've ever done for a client? Is there one you can pick out?
We've had the most fun of being creative, of working for the Hollywood Museum here in LA, because when you work for something like the museum where the owner is really great, Danelle Dowdigan, she said, go for it. Just I want, and she like over the top and makes something really fun. You can do a lot of fantasy trees in that type of environment. In the private home, you're not so much about having a mannequin coming out of your tree.
True.
I haven't met anybody yet, but they have a tendency to like to do. Well, I'm going to just be honest with you. Most people don't decorate that exciting.
Okay.
I mean, Christmas is always about the past with people.
Okay.
And so whatever this particular person had as a child, we generally represent it somewhere in the house.
Got it.
But there is a whole process of sitting down and talking to them, like, do you want it for a party? Do you want it for your children? Do you want it for an event? Do you want to just show off? What do you want to have happen?
Right.
So everybody is very distinct and individual, but there are folks out there who put up the same tree that my mother put up.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a look now, you know, it's that retro vintage look now.
Retro vintage.
I guess you can call me that. We're that retro vintage look now.
You're not vintage, you're a first edition.
But most people are very they're conservative.
They're very traditional in a sense.
You know, you get the folks that want to design it to match their living room, and sometimes you'll get a crazy, like, oh, you want pink and purple and ostrich feathers and all the glitter and stuff coming out of it. And I always ask them 2 or 3 times, are they sure? Because it's not that the tree isn't fun to look at. Yeah. It's just a matter of, is it going to create the experience that you really want to have? Yeah. Or are you just having a moment of like, okay, I want to wear a purple dress today, so I did. And then tomorrow I don't want to wear a purple dress. Right. You know, so you have to be, sometimes you have to hammer it right in.
Yeah. And I want to just backtrack just a smidge and really, because you didn't originally start out as Dr. Christmas. You actually started out as like the Christmas guy.
Wow, you really did dig, didn't you?
I dug deep. I mean, girl, wow. I went full on power bottom and went deep on it there.
I'm a little afraid where this is going.
No, don't worry.
Don't worry about it. You can ask whatever you want.
But, well, it's all in the book anyway. But for like who originally, because I couldn't find who originally like kind of was the client that really said, oh, you're 24 hours on call, you're like on doctor. So how did that story kind of?
Well, it actually was an accident. It wasn't anybody famous. It was actually a regular customer who said, how many trees do you do in a season? I go, as many as I can. I work 24/7.
Right.
Back in the day. When you're first starting out, you just got to take whoever can.
Right. You just going and going.
And she said, oh, you're like a doctor of Christmas. And I go, Dr. Christmas.
On call for 24/7.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay.
And Dr. Christmas was much easier to brand than the Christmas guy.
Yeah. Well, it has a nice little. Honestly, it has a nice little ring to it. Besides, oh, you're the Christmas guy. That's.
You know, I mean, it went over really well. The family, it took a while. Like every good mother and family, you know, when you call them and say, hey, I'm going to decorate Christmas trees for a living from the Midwest, the response was less than stellar.
Did they basically just laugh at you?
They kind of went, people pay to have people do their Christmas trees. What am I supposed to tell people, you know? And I'm like, well, they don't say that now.
Right. Well, so when did you kind of add the whole, again, stylist to the stars? Because that really probably kind of helped oomph it up a little bit even more.
Well, that became, you you had to have a tagline. I learned a lot of stuff on my feet because there wasn't really.
I mean, there's no manual for this.
There was no manual for this. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, if you want to do that, you have to add stars in there. So a friend of mine, I said, well, my tree decorator, the stars. He says, no, you're more like a tree stylist.
Okay.
And so I went, well, that sounds hoity-toity. Let's go tree stylist to the stars, And as long as you put 2 of the stars on anything. Yeah. It's pretty good.
I mean, it really is. And you also have someone else that really kind of was inspiring to you as kind of an inspirational moment for this as well with Rick
I feel like this is your life. I was like, okay.
But Rick Tamlin kind of helped also inspire you to, and he said something really fun, which I really like what he said, and you said in several interviews too as well. It's like, he told you, because you were working so much, you were doing like 3 different jobs at the time and all this stuff, and he's like, make it like a game and make it to where it's fun and enjoyable. So, I mean, how did he, because he pulled you aside and did this, what kind of really, was he just looking at you and you're like, Bob, you need to take a stressor?
This is the inspirational moment. Okay. Now, kid from a small town, only knew what he knew when he left the small town was work hard and do the best you can, which meant working 2 or 3 jobs. Right. And in the days, your parents do the best they can with the tools they have to teach you. Now, I wasn't the best with money, and by the time that life coaching became a thing, Rick Tamlin was I went to college with him.
Oh, wow, okay.
And he had a heart attack in his early 30s.
Oh, my gosh.
And the doctor basically said, because he's in the corporate world, he says, you got to get out of this environment or you'll be dead. Yeah. So he went into the life coaching thing, and I was his first client.
Wow.
And so we went through I was kind of his test subject.
Gotcha.
And we sat in the pool or out in the yard or, life coaching is so common today, it's now in Roseanne, okay? But he basically looked at me one time and said, well, I said, I don't like to work.
Right.
That's my problem. I don't like to work for other people either.
Right.
And because, I don't know, it just hasn't worked out.
No.
I've been fired. I always tell everybody I've been fired 27 times in my lifetime.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say this to anybody who's been fired a lot. It's probably because you're not doing what you should be doing.
Right.
It's not that you're lazy or you're stupid or anything. It's just the fact that you have put yourself into a position that other people think you should be in.
Right.
And most of the time, you're an entrepreneur.
Right.
And so anyway, he one day he told me, he says, well, then make life a game.
Oh, wow.
And it was in that moment that it kind of dawned on me that, oh, we'll just make it a game. And that's when the Lisa thing happened, because I just made a game of it. I was thinking, well, how many famous people can you get on the phone, or how many times can you do it? I mean, I didn't follow any rules, and we just did what we did.
Just made your own rules as you went.
And so that philosophy has served me very well, because I'm not a 9-to-5er. I don't know. I always, my biggest fear today is that I stopped doing this and nobody would hire me because I don't know how to do anything. I'm like,
that's not what the stalls at Mickey say.
Well, now stop that. That's just a whole different talent.
That's a whole other talent. But no, but for real, I mean, it really, I mean, you bring this whole, and it's like you said, people like kind of want to relive these old memories of the past, but you bring this fun back to a time in their life when it was one of probably the most joyful times of their lives.
Well, if I don't do anything else, I give them their time back.
Yeah.
You know, it's an opportunity for them to really, take a moment and say, okay. And we try to create an experience for them. You know, most of the time it's just about, I want you to be able to walk into your home, enjoy the fact that you don't have to fight and put up the tree. You walk in the door, turn on the lights, have a glass of wine, and it's all done.
Because, I mean, decorating is stressful as hell. I mean, you can attest to that.
Look at these circles. He gets me on here after Christmas, okay? Very pretty.
I mean, he looks gorgeous. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But for real, I mean, it's something you want to take the stress away from them and give them that and enjoy that experience of having this time of just, again, it's supposed to be family, togetherness, celebration, and all that.
Well, I have two philosophies when I work with anybody. You know, we sit down and go, I enjoy Christmas still.
Yeah.
And so if you came to me, I'd say, well, I have two requirements. One, if you want to help, I want you to participate. We'll have a great time. If not, stay out of my way and sign the check.
Yep.
Because that's been a great response, because a lot of people are like, oh, great, I can go out the door.
Right.
I'm good. Here's the check, bye.
Yeah.
And then the best part is we come back and take it down and put it all away for you.
Yeah. Wow.
That's really what sells it.
I think so. The fact that they don't have to do anything.
So, I mean, those of you out there are trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, Los Angeles just happens to be one of those cities where you can make it up.
Yeah.
I mean that in all seriousness. We get a lot of bad labels, but there's no other city in this country that you can walk into like this one and tell somebody you're something and people will believe you. Yeah. And then you just keep moving forward. I mean, it's...
As long as you do it and do it
well. And you do the best of your ability and you figure it out, and you have to really know people. Yeah. So you have to get out of your apartment and you have to get off your phone and you have to go out and actually...
Go and talk to people.
Yeah. I mean, it's a scary thought.
And that's the truest thing, too. And the fact that you were just like... Again, you weren't going through any of these proper channels. You're just like, fuck it, I'm just going to call and see what happens. And that's honestly sometimes what you just have to do is just say, throw caution to the wind and just do it.
And, and I wasn't really even being... I just didn't know you couldn't do it.
Right.
And sometimes not knowing is better than knowing, because you'll talk yourself out of it.
True.
If you look at it and go, oh my gosh, I got to get an agent, then I got to do this, and then somebody's got to like me. And that was one of the issues with the acting world. Yeah. Is because there were so many rules in place to keep you from being successful. Yeah. That, the really good people who busted through, most of the time you'll find a similar story where they didn't know better. Yeah. Or they just showed up, or they were in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. Or you met the right person.
Or, somebody else just walked out the door and, hi, what are you doing? Okay, can you be on camera?
Right. No, it's for real.
It's just putting yourself in the environment of which you want to work. Yeah. Truly. And the odds are in your favor if you really persistent.
Is. Yeah. No, and I think, persistence is definitely key, especially in a city like Los Angeles. I mean, the harder you try, and the more persistent you are, I think they appreciate that more, that drive.
It's one of the, it is a city like that, even more so than New York. Yeah. New York is almost like a credential city. You have to show up already ready to roll.
That resume better be packed.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky to be there in the 80s in the sense that it was a mess. Yeah. So it was a little more free than it is today.
Okay.
You know, nowadays it's just so rigid.
Yeah, no, agreed.
It's just, yeah.
And you do, I mean, again, you do about, like, you do so much over the holidays, and not even just Christmas. You're also kind of, well, I mean, I like your other brand as well. It's Dr. Halloween, and you do stuff for Halloween decoration and all this stuff with that as well. What kind of got you into doing Halloween?
Well, you know, Halloween has become the second largest holiday in the country.
It's massive.
And it's just business. Halloween was just business. It was foolish not to take advantage of another 30 days of being able to increase your bottom line, truthfully. And when you're a decorator, I mean, Christmas, Halloween, Easter, it doesn't matter. I mean, you just have to figure out the different techniques. Halloween, in a lot of ways, was a breath of fresh air because it's not so formal like Christmas.
Gotcha.
Christmas comes with a lot of rules.
True.
Halloween, not so much.
Right.
And so you have a little bit more of an opportunity to make things a little less perfect.
Gotcha.
Because Halloween isn't
It's
perfect.
a mess. It's a little bit gory. It's a little bit unkept. It's
I
dirty.
mean, you have all kinds of categories. Now, it will become more like Christmas because what's happening is people are getting very competitive about their decorations.
Oh, true.
They're not willing to just stuff, and some of you young enough to remember this, stuff a pillowcase full of leaves and tie a rope around the neck and put Grandpa's old flannel shirt and set it on the front step and call that a scarecrow.
Right,
you know?
right.
You know, and it only lasted one day. Oh no, now you have decorations that cost you thousands.
Oh my gosh.
You know, they gotta move, they gotta blink, they gotta get up and knife you.
They're basically gonna rip your head off while at the same time give you
That's
candy.
a successful decoration.
Yeah.
Good party.
And so, what do you find is becoming more of the difficult challenge between the two? Is Christmas becoming more difficult, or is Halloween becoming more difficult for you on a business standpoint?
Christmas is still more difficult.
Okay.
Only because of the nature of the beast.
Gotcha.
You know, Christmas still lacks a little bit, believe it or not, of the freedom and fun that Halloween has.
I can see that, but like you said, it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty strict guidelines on some people.
Yeah, I mean, Christmas is home decor.
Yeah.
It is design now.
Yeah.
You know, Halloween is still kind of party event fun.
Gotcha.
You know, it's getting there, but I'm not saying that there aren't Halloween people out there that are serious like Christmas because truly Halloween's a holiday that almost everybody can celebrate.
True.
Unless you're a right-wing Christian and then you put up those awful abortion little haunted houses and stuff.
And then that's a whole nother.
But you know, in the business market, the very right-wing conservatives are not the money maker. That's not how you make your money. I'm just talking business. Take emotion and all that stuff out of it.
Right.
I mean, it's almost a little bit like Jesus and Christmas.
Okay.
You know, we were called into Hallmark, you know, to advise them a little bit, and finally you get around to the Jesus question. You know, Hallmark's always been very conservative, family-oriented, but so, you know, they finally asked me, and they said, where do you see Jesus in the holiday market? And I said, well, you can't have Christmas without him.
Right.
Because it is the reason for the holiday.
Right.
I said, but on business, he doesn't sell.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean he doesn't sell? I go, he doesn't sell because most people buy a creche or the manger once.
True.
And then they have a tendency to pass it down through the family.
Which makes sense.
So it's not going to keep the lights on.
Right.
It's always going to be something that's there in the marketplace because the new ones don't want to buy it. But oh no, we want secular snowmen that change their hats every 2 years.
Yeah.
What's trending in the latest game market, you know, I mean.
Right.
And lighting and all of that has actually become the most progressive in Christmas because LEDs have made the Christmas lighting thing explode.
I can only imagine. And that's like kind of one
in a good and bad way.
Okay. Explode, like set the tree on fire. But I do want to ask you though, because things obviously have changed so drastically when it comes to technology and the way things are made. Do you see decorations becoming a lot more different than what they were traditionally, or do they still follow a very similar kind of pattern?
I will honestly say there's nothing really new.
Okay.
Truly, when it comes to decor.
Okay.
We've exhausted almost every icon of Christmas. It's just the way that it is presented or rewrapped or color coded. That's why I say Christmas is more designer.
Gotcha.
It's kind of like redecorating your living room.
Okay.
You know, because Christmas follows fashion.
True.
So whatever color palette was big last year is going to show up in Christmas the following year.
Oh, really?
Because a lot of the same materials that are made in upholstery and fabric and clothing, that the unused stuff goes into a secondary market where it's purchased by Christmas people who then turn it into decor.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, if it was this color palette, I don't know why this color palette in here would ever be popular, but if it was,
that's why we don't show them the rest of the room.
Oh, it's very conservative hotel. Okay. But there is very like that mid-century-esque looking furniture patterns. But then you would find that upholstery, if they didn't sell it, it would show up next year in a theme of mid-century modern and Christmas
decor.
So there becomes a layer of stuff. Christmas itself is very layered. The big joke in the industry, it's manufactured by the Buddhists, who's wholesaled by the Jews, who sell it to the Christians. So it's just a step-by-step process of everybody getting in on it. It's
And do you find it hard? And I'm gonna kind of bounce back between Christmas and Halloween a little bit, but like with Halloween, do you find it very hard to keep up with the trends of like the newest, scariest movie that's most popular, or things like Babadook, or like the new versions of It, like things like that? Do you have to really keep up to date with all that stuff too?
Well, see, that's where Halloween, even more so than Christmas, is tied into the entertainment industry. Because yes, last year when It was a huge success, you knew the minute that it came out that we were going to see, Pennywise the clown everywhere. And clowns would become the thing for the year. Now, not everybody may choose Pennywise, but there will be clowns. There'll be, they figure out what is the big hot thing that everybody saw at the movies. And so, Halloween's gotten very tied to the entertainment industry,
so you
especially
basically
in the horror genre.
You follow that kind of, do you actively follow that stuff on your own side, or do you just kind of see what's just comes up in general and you're like,
I can pretty much tell by the new slate of horror films, or if there's a social event in the country. You knew Donald Trump was going to be a hideous Halloween costume at some point. And political figures are always skewered.
Right.
It doesn't matter which side of the party they're on. If there's something that shows up
controversial,
that's going to show up in Halloween. Just because it's an opportunity to do parody and make fun of and do the stuff. But
when you're doing presentations for clients to do a small little brief on what you're gonna present to them, do they come to you with a concept, or do you kind of work with them alongside that, or is it kind of a little bit of both?
Well, I sometimes have people who come to me, usually personal assistants.
Okay.
Never really the client that comes to me with a storyboard.
Or, wow, really?
Or they've just gotten too happy on Pinterest, because
they just grab everything.
I'm going to say this. I hate nothing more than somebody comes to me and says, I have a mood board.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. I'm like, a mood board? Okay.
Do you have kerosene and a lighter right with you?
But I look at them and I go, okay. You break down Halloween into types. Do you want classic Halloween?
Got it.
Do you want psycho Halloween?
Got it.
Do you want Martha Stewart Halloween? Or do you want, they're all very distinct things that you can generalize in. But occasionally I'll get people like, oh, I have a mood board, and they'll show you something that, okay, that's fantastic. I'm not sure where we're going to get llama fur at this late date, but maybe I can find something that looks like a llama.
Right. And then on the flip side, what about Christmas? Is it kind of the same thing where they come to you with this, again, grandiose idea, or do they come to you with stuff from their childhood?
Christmas is a little different.
Okay.
At this point in my career, they kind of just trust me.
Gotcha. So they just said, let you.
Yeah, if they get to me by this point, they've hired me because they've already
seen what
trust
you
me. Because I will openly admit, there are less expensive decorators than me in town, but that doesn't make them any less good. It's just a matter of what kind of experience you want to create with the person. I have Ariane Huffington, and she's fine with this. We have the stories that some of them. She was one of them. She came to me and she's always said, if I don't like the tree, I'll send it back. And I'm like, when have you ever sent a tree I brought in back? And she goes, well, never, but there's always the first time. and then she asked me, she says, how did I get you as a decorator? I said, you burned through everybody else in this town. Nobody else will work with you. So when you get to me, you've reached the end of the line.
Oh.
And so she goes, oh, that's fabulous. She says, so I'm difficult? And I go, yes, you are. And she goes, fabulous. I was like, I adore her. She was just very funny and very Greek and very
just opinionated.
And maybe it's part of my personality, but I also don't. I take it serious because I'm spending other people's money.
True, right.
But on the same point, you got to have a moment of we're not curing cancer here. Half the time we're causing it.
Right.
Okay. So Christmas has got to be something that I know there's a lot of emotional stuff that comes with it.
Right.
So even the most person's like, I don't care what you do, they never mean that.
Right, right.
You know, you really have to dig a little bit to get.
Okay.
I force them a little bit because I don't want to have it set up and then they come in and go, oh, well, this isn't what I wanted to do.
Right, right, exactly.
So I have a really good success rate, knock on wood.
Yeah.
I've had my mistakes along the way like anybody else.
Right.
You know, I think I'm fairly easy to work for, but
so easy, ladies and gentlemen.
you know, the people who say they're not difficult really are.
Well, ask Debbie later. No, but I mean, again, you've done this long enough to know what you know and know what works, what doesn't work. I mean, they should.
I do, and truly, I think my talents lie in the fact that I'm able to sit down with somebody and figure it out.
That's good.
I will never say I'm the best decorator in the world,
right?
You know, because there are people out there far better than me. But there's and you know, I've trained a lot.
Right. They feel comfortable.
But I always remind them that the crown is still here.
Right here, right now.
But I have right here, baby, right here. You know, and they're all ready to knock it off. Right. Christmas is an ugly business.
Right. They're all cutthroat bitches right there.
But I think it's that ability that, you know, here's another little fun star story. I won't say who it is, just out of respect. But she was a starlet from the 70s. Okay, that's what I'll give you. But we went to her house, and nobody else wanted to work for her because she was incredibly difficult.
Okay.
So I show up, and she's an hour and a half late for her interview.
Oh
she's
my
in the
gosh.
house, but she didn't come down. So the minute she comes down, she immediately walks past me, goes into the pantry, and starts screaming. And I thought, oh, here we go. It's so classic. She comes out and she said, I'm so sorry. She says, I just had to get that out, and I felt it was better to shout at a bag of flour than you. I went, oh, okay. So we sit down, and I said, what do you want for Christmas? How do you want to do the design? She said, I don't care, honey. I'm really easy. Which I went, whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
You know, here we go. And she looked at me, and she said, before we got started, she said, hey, I want to show you something. So she runs out of the room, brings in this toy piano. And I look at it and go, oh. She said, you ever seen one? I said, yeah, I grew up with these little plink, plink, plink.
Right.
And she goes, where did you get it? I go, well, I saw it in a garage sale like a couple weeks ago. Oh, I got mine on eBay. It cost me $7. How much was yours? I go, I don't know, $3 or $4. Oh, I knew I was getting ripped off. And then I was like, so I was trying to change the subject. Going, do you collect antique toy pianos? She says, no. I bought it because I want to teach my chicken to play Jingle Bells. Oh, yeah. And I went, in my Dr. Christmas way, I went, really? And she says, oh, yes. And I looked at her and I went, she has a gorgeous house, married to a very famous person. And I looked at her and I go, so I go, do you go out and sit in the pen with the chicken and teach it how to play? I go, chickens in Brentwood? And she goes, oh yeah, it's all the rage. All the ladies are getting their own chickens and their fresh eggs, which you know they're not out there picking the eggs, but I digress. So anyway, I was sitting there going, so do you go out in the pen? She said, oh no, the chicken comes into the house. And I looked at her, I said, look, I'm from a small enough town to know you do not bring a chicken into this gorgeous house. You will have a mess everywhere. They're filthy animals.
And they'll peck at everything and all that.
I go, you don't want to do that. She goes, oh, you don't know. And I go, I don't know what. So she races out of the room and comes back with this little flat package that has like Louis Vuitton designs on it. I said, what is that? She goes, oh, those are the diapers for the chicken that you put on while it's inside the house. And you know, Dr. Christmas way, I went, really? I was like, what? What?
The fuck?
And all I could think of was, oh no, just get me out of here now. And then I knew she did the one thing they always do when they're a little touched. They always have money. Crazy people always have money.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, she said, I'd like you to come to my house. I can tell we get along. And she put down this check, and I looked at it and went, no. And of course I said yes, because there was just enough zeros. You know? I went, okay, we'll do it. But I'm like, but I had to, verse the staff on, if the chicken is running through the house, make sure the door is closed, or don't look at the chicken, don't make any comments. I was like,
and it's Louboutin type. Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. And I just went, wow.
So I was kind of curious because I wanted to know. I mean, obviously without saying names, but was that one of your more difficult clients, or?
She was very. Let's put it this way. I'm really good at spotting and trying to avoid the issues.
Okay.
You know, I know every person's home you walked into is a new experience.
Right, obviously.
So you have to get the rules of the house, and I usually get that from the housekeepers.
Okay.
Because any decorators out there, let me tell you right now, if you learn nothing else from me, you never piss off the housekeeper.
Oh, service staff?
No. Not even the owner. Don't worry about them.
Yeah.
The one who runs that household, you figure it out,
Yeah.
and you make them happy. Because if you do not, they will become your worst enemy. So it's, I knew it was going to be a little rough going.
Yeah.
It was okay for the most part, because I just told everybody, like you do when you work with Tom Cruise, keep your head down, don't look at him.
Don't make eye contact. Who would you say is like maybe one of your favorite people you've worked with that were not necessarily like maybe the easiest, but like when you were done, you were like, oh my god, I had so much fun doing this.
It was, most of my clients are really great now.
Yeah.
I mean, I've learned to
Right.
spot them a mile away. I just figure I charge the crazies a lot of money, and
Right.
if they pay, okay. But if
At
they
least they're
don't,
paying for it.
if they don't, I would say John Legend and Chrissy Teigen
Okay.
are awesome people. I will say that forever,
Yeah.
because they're exactly how you see them on TV.
Oh really?
Yeah, I mean they're pleasant, they're funny, they're very approachable. And the first time I ever went to their house, I'm used to going through that whole you have to sign the agreement and all this other stuff.
Right. The NDAs and all that crap. Yeah.
And the security guy, he wasn't really a security guy. He was just kind of somebody sweeping the sidewalk. And he says, "Oh, you can go in through the garage." I said, "Okay." So I figured there'd be a whole. I've been into garages where it looks like NASA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never seen so many cameras and things and
Yeah,
computers
yeah.
going. I don't want to know what's going on here, but let's just go inside.
Right.
So, but no, I walked in and like banged on the back door. It was like being in the Midwest. I opened the door and said, "Hey, it's the Christmas guy," and Chrissy's in there making soup, and she goes, "Oh, come on in, I'm making soup. It's not very good, but you can have some." I was like, okay. And John is great, and he's the sweetest guy, and they're all huggers, okay?
Oh, really?
I
That's
was
great.
like, I mean, they're just those people.
Yeah.
And they're the type that are sitting down, they do their own grocery list. I've never seen anybody. I was a little amazed by it, because I'm like, I actually asked him, I said, "Are you doing your own grocery list?" She goes, "Well, who's going to do it?" And her mom lives with her, and she's so great. She's this little woman. She comes in, and there's protocol. I always ask, "Where's the restrooms that the staff can use?" And she tells me, "That one over there, the same one we use. What do you think? You're special?" And she walked out of the room, and I'm like,
the moms, I love it. The same way.
you learn when they have their parents there, because most of the celebs were not born to money.
True.
They earned it.
Right.
And you get their parents there, and they're hysterical.
Uh-huh.
And some of them like to show off. You see this Baccarat crystal chandelier that they just put. I said, "God, that's beautiful." And the mother walking through. Yeah, but I hope they don't expect me to dust that thing. Just them. She says, "It's ridiculous."
But it's true though. I mean, the parents are the one that's seen them at like the bear when they have like nothing with like little kids. I love that.
I mean, I did Richard Simmons' house one year, and I love Richard. Well, it was funny because he has his house up above Sunset, and it's like a mansion, and it had lavender carpeting. And at the time, this is way back when.
Oh, okay.
And we went in there, and his mother, who was still alive at the time, she says, "So who are you?" Because they got that same. I said, "Well, I'm here to do the decoration." She said, "What do you think of the house?" I said, "Well, it's a nice house." And she goes, "It looks like a drag queen's ice cream parlor in here." And I was like, and then you hear Richard back going, "Nah." And I was like,
which I mean, Richard.
Richard, I love him. One of the nicest men ever.
Oh yeah.
One of the nicest guys ever.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just so kind. His mother was just so funny. Just like the drag queen's ice cream parlor.
And he's always a character too, as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always a bundle of
100 years ago. I mean, this is like, this is how long I've been doing this. And
well, you're only 45. I mean, like, what are you talking about?
How dare
Sorry, 35. My bad. I added 10 years.
Did you not read the press release? You didn't dig far enough into that. Whatever you're reading over there, it scares me. I hate to see what you're going to pull next from the archives. Yes, I did decorate for Doris Day. Well, I did decorate for Lana Turner.
Oh.
Yeah.
Lana?
I'm not that old. Not when she was young.
No, obviously not.
I decorate for Lana. I tell this one too, real quick, because mostly star stories. She was one of my first. I went over to her place in Century City. It was a year before she died.
Oh.
And she was dying of throat cancer from all the years of smoking and stuff. And she comes through the door and she was like 4 feet tall, tiny, all in white and a turban. I thought, oh my God, Norma Desmond, it was fabulous.
Of course.
And she just says, come on in, and she's smoking. Even though she, whatever, at this point, who cares,
So
right?
fuck it.
So she's sitting there, and she had red nail polish. And I said, nice to meet you, Miss Turner. And she puffs on that. She starts laughing like, I haven't been a miss in 40 years, And it was more like 60, but I didn't go there. But still gorgeous. And she sat down, and she said, so, kid, how'd you hear about me? It was that old-time old-time movie star.
Like,
and I said, well, Miss Turner, I know who you are. I mean, you're famous. And Debbie Reynolds referred me to you because she said, and she goes, and what did Debbie say? And I was like, whoop, whoop. And I looked up to her and I said, well, she said, I would really enjoy working for you because you're a glamorous, beautiful movie star and that you're this, that, and the other, whatever bullshit I was feeling.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. And then she didn't say anything, and I started decorating, and then she put that cigarette out, and she says, kid? And I turned up, and I remember this so well, because here's this tiny woman in a white turban, red nail polish, and sitting there pointing at you.
Right.
And she says, kid, you're going to make it in this town. You know why? And I said, why, Miss Turner? She says, you know how to keep your mouth shut.
I was like, because she does that is not at all with everybody else.
And I mean, years later when I was working with Debbie, and I love Debbie and Carrie. And Debbie, we were in her living room, and all these MGM stars came. We're talking about the old girls, June Allison and all of them. And they came in, Esther Williams, and they were all sitting around. And those girls talked like truckers and drank like them too. And like Debbie Reynolds' tea parties were like open call at the bar in the afternoon. And I was so young at the time. And I don't mean that disparagingly. They were just women, tough girls.
Yeah.
Tough.
Oh, yeah.
And I never took so long to decorate a tree in my life because I just wanted to sit there hiding like a mouse hearing everything.
Right.
And they went through everybody. And the reason I knew the Lana Turner thing is because they all hated Lana Turner. Because apparently Lana Turner took all their boyfriends.
Oh.
All the way through. If I liked her, Lana would take him.
Wow.
So they were merciless to her. And they went through and they started talking all through all the people from Louis B. Mayer and all these people that you knew. And it was fascinating. And oh my God. Until they got to Judy Garland. And I was waiting for this. I thought, oh my God, what are they going to do to poor Judy? Don't you mean poor Judy? Not a single bad word.
Wow.
Not a single bad word. They were like fans.
Wow.
Oh my God, all they did was talk about how sweet and kind and how talented she was and how that. I was like,
did your mouth fall down?
I thought, whoa, they ran out of bad things to say. Because I was
they spewed it out with everyone
I said,
else.
so you got poor Lana over here and then you got Judy over here. And it was like, oh, it was fascinating.
That's really amazing.
I know I'm banging like some old queen who's been around too long.
No.
I read it in a book. I'm making all this crap up. I was just born yesterday. I feel like Paul Lynde all of a sudden.
Oh God, no, you do not. But I mean, it's really because again, these have such. I mean, first of all, the amazing stories you've got to have because of the people you've gotten to meet through this, and it's to me, it's capturing these people's history and being able to share it like that for stuff that again, what really goes on behind the scenes in Hollywood. You've probably seen it all for the things that like they kind of like treat you almost like you're invisible a little bit. While you're decorating, and they're just kind of like going on and on and on.
Well, in all kidding aside, stuff I try to when we go in, I try to be as least invasive as possible.
Gotcha.
Because people have to go through their lives.
It's their home still.
It's their home, and
right.
you be very respectful of them. And generally, I like everybody, and I've trained my crew. For the most part, you just
stay out of the way. Stay
out of the way and do the stuff,
right.
and just be nice, and you usually get treated back. And yes, you do hear a lot of things, but there's the things that It serves you no point to go out and be a town gossip.
Right.
I mean, the stuff I share today has been around forever. I mean, I've talked about it, and there's nothing malicious. I mean, yes, there's been some awfully awful things, but I'm not going to go around and tell people that kind of stuff. Because why?
It doesn't serve you any purpose.
No, and business-wise, it's very bad.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you have me in your home if you know I'm going to go out and, dish to the Inquirer
right,
and stuff?
Exactly.
And so, really, it's none of my business,
Yeah.
Unless they're throwing something at me.
Yeah, right. But again, it's like you said, it's what she said that you're to keep your mouth shut. And I think that's what people appreciate, that they respect the privacy and that it's like, again, coming to a very personal space. being in there and like.
Well, honey, you know as well as I do, when you don't talk, you hear a lot more.
Oh, you know. Amen. It's so true.
It's like you're too young. If your partner was here, we could talk about hee-haw together. But you're way too young.
Hee-haw.
I mean, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Hee-haw's a drink, right?
Oh my God. No, they used to have this little song about, we don't go around spending gossip and, so you better listen close the first time.
All right, well, I'm not getting age shamed right now.
Oh, you're totally getting age shamed because you just don't know true culture. Yeah.
From the 80s.
Oh, please.
But it is true. I mean, I do love...
Pull out your sad 90s references. I don't care.
She loves Depeche Mode.
I do love Depeche Mode. It is amazing. I will never live that down. I know I will never live that down. And it will be there to it will be there to the day that I'll have them tell you because they always love telling it better than I do.
Maybe they should come and tell them yourself.
No,
I think they're still around.
Not at all. For you, when you kind of are looking at things to do today and making sure that, I mean, obviously keep up with trends and everything, what do you have kind of as advice to people when they're just general holiday decorating advice? Do you prefer like real tree to fig, LED to real? Like, what is, if you had just some like maybe 2 or 3 quick tips of people that are just like, I don't know what to do in order to decorate to make it look just decent for the holidays. What are some like simple things you usually kind of recommend?
The most simple thing is you can do is hire me.
No, but and you're really not that expensive, honestly. I mean, if you want to get bougie,
I've just been called cheap, and I'm not even on Ellen's show.
No, he's not cheap. He's been called affordable. So if you want the glamorous and the god of the days for Christmas, I mean, you definitely can afford.
Well, if you're talking, I mean, artificial trees are much easier to make look perfect.
Okay.
Just because of the nature of how they're already designed. They're made without flaws.
Right.
Okay, just to look at them. And they're often easier, well, in California weather especially.
Well, right,
okay.
Exactly.
Now, anywhere else, I mean, for those of you who like a Christmas tree up for a month or two, I mean, you have to go artificial because there's no way.
It's going to survive that.
But, live trees tend to talk more about the past and the way people were raised. Okay. And so, it's all about the lighting. Pre-lit trees are often a godsend nowadays. And simple tips when decorating a tree just to make it look better is, I tell everybody to decorate their tree like you're casting a movie because you have your stars, your co-stars, your feature players, and your extras. The tree itself, your stars are those really cool pieces that you like that create the theme. You can't do a movie without a star.
Right.
It doesn't work. Okay. So you have to have something that sets the course of the look of the tree, whether it's ribbon, whether it's ornaments, whether it's something else.
Right.
And then you start to build from that so you don't have to break the bank. You start to go down in layers of ornaments from super expensive to not so expensive to just your basic kind of pretty ornaments to your basic round balls, which are the extras.
Right.
That just fill it in. It helps your tree have a much more layered look. And when you're hanging the ornaments, please wrap the strings because I always say it's not about the string, it's about the ornament. And you'll notice the difference, just a simple wrapping of the ornament string around the branch so that the tree becomes cleaner. Because otherwise you start to look at a tree, you see a sea of strings hanging there, and it kind of ruins the whole...
That's true, I never thought of it that way, but yeah, you're right. It is something you just see all of them just dangling from whatever.
Right, and I mean, those are just really simple things.
Right.
I don't really like to tell people how to do their trees because, it's your personal expression of how you like to do it, but there are certain things you can do to just.
But I think that's but you're right though. That is such a smart thing to do of starting with a focal element and then coming down from that to doing all the other things that kind of make it a little bit more fun. And I love that movie reference because Hollywood, everyone totally understands that around here. And
so it just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And proper planning is great.
Yeah, for sure.
It's save your marriage. I have a box. I'm telling you right now, I have a box of letters from people who have written me thanking them for saving their marriage.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wow.
And it's funny to me.
Yeah.
And I go, this was supposed to be fun, remember?
Right. This is supposed to be an enjoyable time of the year. You will love it. But I totally get that. And it is amazing. Because you can sometimes end up being a therapist trying to just do all that stuff. Yeah,
and as far as if you do a live tree, the hardest part about a live tree is generally the lighting of it.
Okay.
And a lot of people still do the round and round thing. I don't know who started that. I did it as a kid too.
Yeah, it was always
but
everyone.
Truthfully, if you think of the tree in the form of a triangle, And if you just pick one side of it and you start at the base or the top, whichever you prefer. I usually start at the base because it's closest to the plug. And then you just go in and out on the branch, and you stand in one spot and just do one side of the tree, and then move to the second and then the third. The reason for that is when you come to take the lights off, they come right off because you're like,
right,
and
it's
they
just
come right off. So there's none of this tangling around and stuff that you go. So it makes life a little easier in that respect. The other thing is, you know, you constantly have to move your ornaments on a live tree further back into the tree a little because the tree will start to droop.
Right.
And there's a little bit of maintenance, but you know, people who love live trees, you're not going to talk them out of it.
No, exactly.
You know, it just...
That's just what it is.
And I actually get a live tree every year because the work we do most of the time, my tree doesn't look like anything that we decorate.
Well, no.
And people come over to me all the time, they go, they pay you?
I go, do you pay yourself?
Well, it's become, hey, really? Did you do that? I go,
My sister.
Like, bitch, I just did 90 homes this
yeah,
year.
so I was like, you know what? I mean, yeah, I mean, because otherwise it's like bringing work home.
Yeah.
And you start to look at like, well, that just looks like that perfect tree you just did for whatever. And it's kind of like,
meh.
Yeah, when you see a lot of perfect trees after a while, it's like West Hollywood. You see too many perfect abs, and you just get so bored, don't you?
Until you want to look at another one.
Yeah.
But no, I love. I mean, again, I would have never thought of like some of these different things for that, and it's just again simple, fun little things that make it just it's such an easier.
Well, you know, my partner Debbie and I, we have to teach people how to do things a lot, so you have to do it in terms that most people understand.
Agreed.
Everybody's so creative.
Yeah.
You know, when they want to picture things, it's...
Who thinks they're so creative?
Well, not everybody, but if they're not, you have to give them some form of reference so they can relate to it.
No, I totally agree.
It's not about making people wrong, because, you know, if you love your tree looking like that, then good for you.
Party.
So am I.
Yeah.
I don't care. I never get invited to parties, though. And I never...
Because you're the belle of every ball.
I always hate when you go to a Christmas party, because the first thing they do is say, don't look at the tree. I go, I'm not here for the tree. I'm here to drink your booze and eat your food. But you inevitably get drug over to the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, what do you think? And this is that. And then somebody else will... And that's all fine. You know, it's part of it, and I don't mind. But at the same time, I go, I'm here to judge.
No. So
I get paid to judge. I get paid to judge.
Right,
You know? I assess.
Yes, I love it. Well, I mean, if you guys want to get to know a little bit more that we didn't talk today about Mr.
Because he dug up a lot.
I dug up a lot. Most of it will be in the book. But our first issue of West Hollywood Magazine, we did a really great interview with Dr. Christmas in here. You can actually go and see that we have a digital copy on our magazine website.
Yeah, on non-glossy paper.
On non-glossy paper, I know.
It's a collector.
It is. It's an OG realness. It's on westhollywoodmag.net, and you can go check that out. Where we have all our other issues as well. But this one, you can get some really great information about the amazing Bob Pranga in that as well. And thank you so much for taking time. I know it is your hellish craziest time of the year, but thank you for helping end this with me.
That's awesome. I have to do one little plug, and you tell me if it's any good. The name of my book is what I'm going to call it, is Tales from Under the Tree, Confessions of a Hollywood Ball Hanger. It's like, so look for it, people, when it comes out.
Honestly, though, that is you to a T, though. Honestly, that is just so your personality.
Don't worry, I've recorded everything you said today. So,
on here.
On here, yes. Born in 80. What'd you say? I hate you.
No, he was born in 85. I don't know what you're talking about.
85, yeah.
He's only a few years older.
I danced with Madonna and frickin', you know, wherever she was. We were in that club.
Studio 52.
No, in New York.
Limelight?
No. God, Limelight. I was there with the kids that killed each other. That was fun. Anyway.
So we'll figure that one out. We'll post that
I
one
was
later.
young.
Still young. I have seen this man out party everyone in Hollywood, West Hollywood, and a few places in Silver Lake. So, when he says he is not young and spry, that is bullshit. So we want to...
Silver Lake. That's such a pretty name.
If only the town were. Well, thank you guys so much, and we really appreciate you tuning in, and thank you so much, Bob, for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I was like, I came and dressed in black, all the Christmas colors.
He's reliving Halloween one more time before the end of the year. But we do thank you so much for being here and taking the time to be with us today.
You get the last word in the interview, right?
Just a little bit.
Oh, because it's your show? Okay,
it's my show. Because it's
She got all of it.
But we do want to say thank you to GayLifeLA.com as well as Kings Road Apartment Homes for being here. And tune in for the new year. We'll be interviewing all the amazing people that put together Reverie.com for the founders of that. So tune in on January 9th for that amazing start for season 4. But thank you guys so much for being here with us. Have an amazing holiday and happy new year. And we'll see you in 2019.
Yeah.
Bye.